Autocrats are waiting for me in the audience hall on sore knees. They are not here to discuss matters of state after my death, but to press me into naming one of their sons as heir. It pains me to admit that our dynasty has exhausted its essence. In times like this, I can do nothing right. I have been forced to witness the collapse not only of my son, at the age of 19, but of China itself. Could anything be crueler? Fully aware of the reasons that contributed to my situation, I feel stifled and on the verge of suffocation. China has become a world poisoned in its own waste. My spirits are so withered that the priests from the finest temples are unable to revive them. This is not the worst part. The worst part is that my fellow countrymen continue to show their faith in me, and that I, at the call of my conscience, must destroy their faith. I have been tearing hearts for the past few months. I tear them with my farewell decrees. I tear them by telling my countrymen the truth, that their lives would be better off without me. I told my ministers that I am ready to enter eternity in peace, regardless of the world's opinions. In other words, I am a dead bird, no longer afraid of boiling water. I had been blind when my sight was perfect. This morning I had trouble seeing what I was writing, but my mind's eye was clear. The French dye does an excellent job of making my hair look the way it used to, black as velvet night, and it does not stain my skull like the Chinese dye I applied for years. Don't talk to me about how smart we are compared to the barbarians. It is true that our ancestors invented paper, the printing press, the compass, and explosives. But our ancestors also refused, dynasty after dynasty, to build proper defenses for the country. They believed that China was too civilized for anyone to even think about challenging. Look at where we are now. The dynasty is like a brain-dead elephant taking its time to finish its last breath. Confucianism has been proven flawed. China has been defeated. I have received no respect, no fairness, no support from the rest of the world. Our neighboring allies watch us falling apart with apathy and helplessness. What is freedom when there has been no honor? The insult for me is not about this unbearable way of dying, but about the absence of honor and our inability to see the truth. It surprises me that no one realizes that our attitude toward the end is comical in its absurdity. During the last audience, I couldn't help but yell, "I am the only one who knows that my hair is white and thin." The court refused to hear me. My ministers saw the French dye and my finely arranged hairstyle as real. Knocking their heads on the ground, they sang, "Heaven's grace, 10,000 years of health, long live your majesty." Chapter 1. My imperial life began with a smell, a rotten smell that came from my father's coffin. He had been dead for 2 months, and we were still carrying him, trying to reach Peking, his birthplace, for burial. My mother was frustrated. "My husband was the governor of Wuhu," she said to the footmen whom we had hired to bear the coffin. "Yes, madam," the head footman answered humbly, "and we sincerely wish the governor a good journey home." In my memory, my father was not a happy man. He had been repeatedly demoted because of his poor performance in the suppression of the Taiping peasant uprisings. Not until later did I learn that my father was not totally to blame. For years, China had been dogged by famine and foreign aggression. Anyone who tried on my father's shoes would understand that carrying out the emperor's order to restore peace in the countryside was impossible. Peasants saw their lives as no better than death. I witnessed my father's struggles and sufferings at a young age. I was born and raised in Anhui, the poorest province in China. We didn't live in poverty, but I was aware that my neighbors had eaten earthworms for dinner and had sold their children to pay off debts. My father's slow journey to hell and my mother's effort to fight it were my childhood. Like a long-armed cricket, my mother tried to block a carriage from running over her family. The summer heat baked the path. The coffin was carried in a tilted position because the footmen were of different heights. Mother imagined how uncomfortable my father must be lying inside. We walked in silence and listened to the sound of our broken shoes tapping the dirt. Swarms of flies chased the coffin. Each time the footmen paused for a break, the flies covered the lid like a blanket. Mother asked my sister, Rong, my brother, Guixiang, and I to keep the flies away, but we were too exhausted to lift our arms. We had been traveling north along the Grand Canal on foot because we had no money to hire a boat. My feet were covered with blisters. The landscape on both sides of the path was bleak. The water in the canal was low and dirt-brown. Beyond it were barren hills, which extended mile after mile. There were fewer inns to be seen. The ones that we did come upon were infested with lice. "You'd better pay us," the head footman said to Mother when he heard her complaint that her wallet was near empty, "or you will have to carry the coffin yourselves, madam." Mother began to sob again and said that her husband didn't deserve this. She gained no sympathy. The next dawn, the footmen abandoned the coffin. Mother sat down on a rock by the road. She had a ring of sores sprouting around her mouth. Rong and Guixiang discussed burying our father where he was. I didn't have the heart to leave him in a place without a tree in sight. Although I was not my father's favorite at first, he was disappointed that I, his firstborn, was not a son. He did his best in raising me. It was he who insisted that I learn to read. I had no formal schooling, but I developed enough of a vocabulary to figure out the stories of the Ming and Qing classics. At the age of 5, I thought that being born in the year of the sheep was bad luck. I told my father that my friends in the village said that my birth sign was an inauspicious one. It meant that I would be slaughtered. Father disagreed. "The sheep is a most adorable creature," he said. "It is a symbol of modesty, harmony, and devotion." He explained that my birth sign was in fact strong. "You have a double 10 in the numbers. You were born on the 10th day of the 10th moon, which fell on the 29th of November, 1835. You can't be luckier." Also, having doubts regarding my being a sheep, Mother brought in a local astrologer to consult. The astrologer believed that double 10 was too strong. "Too full," the old hag said, which meant too easily spilled. "Your daughter will grow up to be a stubborn sheep, which means a miserable end." The astrologer talked excitedly as white spittle gathered at the corners of her mouth. "Even an emperor would avoid 10 in fear of its fullness.